What's up, everybody? This is the Hedge Mage, and welcome back to another video. Last week in my Friday Night Magic report, I talked to you guys about my experience playing Tithing Blade, or a black-white mid-range deck featuring Tithing Blade and Core Skyfisher and Glinthawk. So basically, the whole game plan being to bounce our Tithing Blade to get as much value out of it as possible. And since that video, I've been thinking a lot about how I want to push the deck. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over a couple new updates I have made to the list. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely stick around. As always, if you want to support the channel, if you could leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, let's get into my new updates for the list. And the biggest update to the list, this is kind of based around some conversation I've had both um, online as well as, post game at Friday Night Magic and at the game store with other players. And one thing that was suggested or kind of spitballed around is running creatures that have ninjitsu. Uh, so that is kind of what I wanted to work into the list. There are a few black creatures that do have ninjutsu that I think are gonna add something to this deck. So that is basically what I wanted to bring in. Um, so one card that I've been looking at, I've also seen this being played in Demir Fairies a little bit, was Mukutoi Ambusher. So basically, it's a 4 mana creature, 3 generic and a black rat ninja with a ninjutsu cost of 1 generic and a black. It has lifelink and it's a 3/2. So with this, it kind of allows us to get some incremental life gain as long as it doesn't get killed before it deals damage. And so one of my game plans with this is bouncing, my core Skyfishers, my Glinthawks with it to gain a little bit of life, and then I can always replay the core Skyfisher, for example, bouncing the Ambusher back to my hand and rinse and repeat. And the reason I wanted to bring in the lifelink ninja here is because there was a pretty brutal matchup against Koldatha Red. So they are very aggressive right now, especially if they are running for bushwhackers, which a lot of lists are doing that. So want to bring in some more life gains because I am very much missing the gain lands or all the incremental life gain that you get out of very similar Orzhov list like Orzhov Ephemerate. Uh, which has I think, a much better matchup against Koldatha Red just because of all the life gain it has, as well as cards like Ephemerate, which is another card that I am thinking about working into this list. Haven't really committed to that plan yet, though. So the Mukutoi Ambusher is definitely something I'm bringing into the main deck. So we're just bringing in one copy right now. And the other new addition to the main deck is Okiba Gang Shinobi. So it's another ninjutsu card. It definitely has less of an efficient ninjutsu cost here. This is a 5 mana card. 3 generic and 2 black. Ninjutsu cost is 3 generic and 1 black. And when it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards, also a 3/2. So this can really help us be more of a grindy control deck, as well as, same thing, can bounce our Glinthawks, bounce our core Skyfishes so we can replay them. Hopefully bounce this again with the core Skyfisher. And this lets us kind of destroy our opponent's hand. As I'm not really running anything like Hopeless Nightmare or Duress in the main deck, so this kind of helps us, take over the game after we've dealt with their creatures, getting them to be in more of a top deck situation, which is right where we want our opponents to be with this type of strategy. And other than the Okiba Gang Shinobi and the Ambusher, the rest of the deck has not changed. It's pretty much all the same stuff. So I have thought about maybe bringing in Reckoner's Bargain over or Deadly Dispute, but the Deadly Dispute adding the treasure token really helps us out with our metalcraft and making sure our vampire is draining for the full, does get its metalcraft so we can drain them for four, which is, I think, a pretty big reason why we're building the deck this way is that the vampire is our late game payoff with this deck, as well as things like Thorn of the Black Rose. So yeah, the rest of the deck has not changed, at least in the main board. In the sideboard, I have made some other changes as well. So I definitely build my sideboards with my own local meta in mind. And one of the more popular decks in my local scene has definitely been Bogles. So I was running 4 Chainer's Edicts, but I have been thinking a lot about how much space that has been taking up in my sideboard, as well as kind of the rising popularity at the store with mono red decks. I think there was at least 3 to 4 mono red players last week, or players playing red. I was one of them, though I was not playing Koldath. I was playing a different deck. Um, so that is why I want to bring in 2 more of these Mukutoi ambushers, as they do seem, the Ninjitsu does seem to add a lot of value to the deck, being able to, like I was just describing, bouncing our Glinthawks and our Skyfishes. So bringing 2 more into the sideboard. I took out the Chainer's Edicts, as they were taking up a lot of space, and I felt like we could have more versatility in our sideboard, especially since I don't see Bogles very much, and we already have Tithing Blades in the main deck. So as long as we hit a Tithing Blade and some bounce creatures like our Skyfishes and our Glinthawks, I don't think Bogles is going to be that much of a problem. We also have a Dongbringer Clerics as well in the main deck. So I don't think I really need to have the 4 Chainer's Edicts in the sideboard anymore. As another deck that is also gaining a lot of popularity is Glitters. So I think with our little bit of enchantment hate through the Dawnbringer clerics, I think we're gonna be okay without the Chainer's Edicts. Not to mention Chainer's Edicts don't always do a lot against all the glitters builds, since they usually have a pretty big board of creatures with their Frogmites and Mirror Enforcers and their Inspectors. Another new card that I'm putting in the sideboard is Skull Snatcher. So this is another ninjutsu card. I have thought about trying to work this in the main board. Wasn't really sure on what to cut as of right now. So right now I just have it in the sideboard, as it is kind of niche, since so it's 1 generic and a black, has an ninjutsu cost of 1 black, and when it deals combat damage to a player, remove up to 2 target cards in that player's graveyard from the game. It's a 2/1, so it's not very survivable. However, being able to exile a couple cards from a graveyard can really go against anyone playing out of the yard, especially combo decks. So I wanted to bring in a little bit of extra hate for them. Obviously, our Dawnbringer clerics also can do the job for us, but this allows us to replay either Dawnbringer cleric or our bounce spells. So Skull Snatcher is another piece of tech that I want to try out from the sideboard. And the last new card that I am bringing in is Leave No Trace, and I definitely very much am running this just in case we do see Bogles, and as well as it also can hit all the glitters. Since it is so it's an instant with for 1 generic and a white, has Radiance, destroy target enchantment, and each other enchantment that shares a color with it. So we can basically destroy all the auras on from the Bogos players, since they are pretty much all green or white. So if they have a, like, say, an Armadillo Cloak, we basically can destroy all of their auras that way. Definitely seems to be a very good card against them. Not to mention, we can also bring this in against all the glitters decks. Have been seeing a few more of those lately. So yeah, just want to make sure we're prepared for that as well. Otherwise, The rest of the sideboard has pretty much changed. Still waiting on my third copy of Dust to Dust to come in the mail. I am probably going to have to reach out to the sellers to see what's happened to that card, as it's been about 3 weeks now. So definitely beware of TCG players, sellers sometimes. I have had a good experience when I do reach out to them. I usually either get refunded or, get replacement cards sent to me if I don't receive them. But yeah, still waiting on that third copy of Dust to Dust. So still only on two Dust to Dust in my sideboard. The deck list, I will have a link to that in the description. It will differ. It is saying three because that is where I want to be with the deck. Since I think you need to, if you're in white and you're trying to go against Affinity, you need to have, I would say, minimum of three, either Dust to Dust or Revoke existence in your sideboard. That's obviously my opinion. That's my own experience, but I would do minimum three, and if you can, go up to four. So you're really gonna want to shut down Affinity before they get going. And so yeah, we still got the duress. Oh, and I nearly forgot, but there is also one more new addition to the sideboard, and that is Echoing Decay. So for one generic and a black, it's an instant, and target creature and all other creatures with the same name as that creature get -2, -2. And I wanted to bring this in just because of how brutal the matchup against Koldatha can be. So I wanted something that can maybe hit multiple Goblin Tomb Raiders or multiple Blast Runners, since they have a toughness of 2. I'll definitely want to bring in this in against them. Not to mention, we can also use it to sweep the board of after they play Koldatha Rebirth and maybe a Goblin Bushwhacker. We can then get rid of all the tokens. We're also running one Suffocating Fumes main board. I have thought, so we do have these Drown in Sorrows in the deck, or in the sideboard. I have been thinking of cutting them, though they do offer a lot of value, especially with the Scry, which is very, very good. And obviously the -2, -2 hits a lot of stuff in the meta, though dealing with Koldatha, it does start to feel like you really need to be able to deal with them at instant speed, because when they're swinging at you, they play Cold Author Rebirth into a Bushwhacker. If they also have if they also have some Tomb Raiders and a Blast Runner, they're gonna hit you for a lot of damage. I mean, you're probably taking somewhere between 8 and 10 damage that turn in. That is a lot. So it is a very aggressive deck. Swings for a lot of damage, kind of out of nowhere. So Drown in Sorrow or any sorcery speed sweepers right now have not been feeling that great to me. So I may be adding another Echoing Decay and maybe another Suffocating Fumes. Although Drown in Sorrow is definitely very good against some other matchups. Um, so for now, I'm just keeping the two in. We may go down to one and maybe add another Suffocating Fumes here. I haven't really committed to that idea yet, but there may be some more updates in the future with the list. But that's about it, guys. That's all the new cards that I am currently bringing in for my Orzhov Blade deck. Of course, there I will have a link in the description below, and I would love to hear from you guys on what you think about these changes. Do you agree, disagree? Are there some changes that you would make to the list yourself? For sure would love to hear your thoughts on that. But that's going to do it for today. I'm getting out of here now, and I hope you all are having a great and wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.